YouTubers. My name's Mike. This is Extreme Automotive Addiction. We interrupt this test drive to bring you some facts and figures on this 1964 C2 Corvette. Now, Corvettes have been around for a very long time. It started life in 1953. Almost didn't survive the first couple of years, but then they caught on and never have looked back. And there has been a Corvette every year from 1953 to 2018, actually 2019, considering the ZR1, with the exception of 1983. They took a hiatus to come up with the C4 Corvette. For me, the best looking Corvette, bar none, is the C2 design. And it was the shortest lived design, the shortest lived generation Corvette. I mean, this thing only ran from 1963 through 1967, so basically a 5-year stint. But the design was just amazing. Now, in 1963, initially it came out with a split window, and I'll show you guys exactly what I mean. So in 1963, there was a split window, so that means there was a metal piece that came right down in the center, right here where these little ridges would go, and it split the window, thus split window. No one liked it because there was a blind spot right there you couldn't see around, and so it only lasted for 1 year. Thus, the split window is now a very popular, very in-demand vehicle. It can command well into the 6 figures. Also, the more popular of the C2 would be the like 66, 67 big block cars, 4-speed cars. They still demand a lot of money, although the small block cars are coming up. Kind of the same as Cobras. The small block cars, you know, they handle a little bit better, a little lighter. You didn't have as much straight line performance, but if you wanted everything else, then you got a 327 car. This car is a 1964. It is not a numbers matching car. It's a crate 350 under the hood. It's a 4-speed manual transmission. Basically no frills, no power windows, no power brakes. Actually, I take it back. It does have power brakes. It does have power steering, which is kind of unusual for 64. It's got the Corvette rallies on it. Well, let's just take a walk around the car and take a look at it. I love the red. I don't know why. I was just really attracted to the red. I drove another red 65 that I'll talk about here in a minute. Talk about that experience. And but I really dig this car. Definitely a bucket list car for me, and it sits nice. It looks good. The chrome's good. You know, it's not a show winning car. None of my vehicles are. I've talked about this before. I'm not looking for 100-point cars that are just perfect, because then I don't want to drive them. I'm looking for cars that are nice, nicely done, nice drivers, but that I can still take to a car show. I can still show off and feel good about, and this car definitely has that. Take you guys on the interior. You can see the door panels are in really good shape. This is how you open the door. It's for your wing window and the regular roll-up window. You can see I still have the little generic floor mats from the dealership where I got it, because I need to get some floor mats for this car. But yeah, the interior, the seats are in great shape, and back is in great shape. Headliner, visors, everything is just in really, really good shape. You see the gauges are pretty straightforward. You have the big speedometer and tach. And then over here you have your fuel, your battery, oil and temperature. Got a working clock. The stereos were set sideways in these vehicles for just the amount of space that they had. So you have your volume and tone and tuning, everything like that up here. Now this is an aftermarket stereo. It's a digital setup that looks like a factory original, but it works good, and it's just got a couple of 6x9s in the back, and it sounds fine. Basically with this car, I'm not really listening to the tunes from the stereo as much as I'm listening to the tunes from the motor. And this is not a very aggressive motor, as you can tell from when I started it up. It's just a crate 350. I think it's supposed to be a 330 horse, which is the same motor that's in my 65 Chevy pickup. And it does just fine. I didn't buy this car for speed. It's definitely not a speed demon. It's just a good cruising car. And like I said, the C2 Corvette was a bucket list car for me. 4-speed manual transmission. Shifts great. This is probably one of the best shifting cars that I've experienced. I love it. I love driving this car. It's very smooth, and it impresses me how well it does ride and shift and brake and everything like that, even though it's got 4-wheel manual drum brakes. I'm sorry, 4-wheel power drum brakes. Keep forgetting to say it does have power brakes, but it does. It brakes well, it shifts well, it rides well, and you guys will see when we take it down the road. Even for these bumpy roads around here, it's actually pretty good. Just a nice driving car. Under the hood is pretty basic. Like I said, just a crate 350. It's got headers on it. It's had some attention. I was looking back over the receipts, and the previous owner, he did a lot to the car. A lot of suspension work, a lot of little miscellaneous things like that. It does have a Holley carburetor on it, which I'm thinking we might have to do a little work on. Initially when I got the car, it ran really good, and the next time I drove it, it was kind of falling flat and struggling. Eddie played with the timing a little bit and played with the carburetor on it and got it back to where it's running good again. But I noticed in the paperwork from the previous owner, he had the same problem just before he put this car on consignment. So I anticipate we're going to have those problems again. You know, Holley carburetors are kind of temperamental. They do perform very well when they're at their peak, but I'm just not a big fan because they are so temperamental. I would rather lose a little bit of horsepower and have a vehicle I can get in every time, start, drive with no hiccups. So may end up switching over to an Edelbrock, or we'll see what we can do about tinkering with this carburetor. I'm not too sure, but you know, the car works well, it drives well, and really no complaints at all. Come around to the front. The chrome is all in really, really good shape. The flip-up headlights do work, and they work actually pretty well. I'm pretty surprised about that. It's got the Corvette rallies on it, and I just love the way that the rear and front bumpers, they do this, they're just splits like that. I really like that setup, that way that looks. It's a cool look. Now this one does not have the side pipes. The 65 that I test drove about just before I ended up picking up this one had side pipes on it, and truthfully, side pipes sound amazing, but I can see how it would get very annoying after a while. It's kind of like in my Cobra. I mean, they sound good and it's iconic for the car, but the reality is most people are going to get tired of it after a little bit and listening to that droning right there in the air, especially when they're passing like a wall or other vehicles or what have you, and it's resonating back. It's really loud and obnoxious. So yeah, I think we'll take it out for a little drive, give you my driving impressions. We now resume with our regularly scheduled test drive. So, as I've said in previous videos, and hopefully the audio will be okay in this car. I'm not going to really go that fast, make a lot of noise. Windows are up, so hopefully it should be good. But I was never a big Corvette fan because my mom had a 78 C2 Corvette, and to me it always just rode really rough. They had a lot of issues with the car, just a lot of things they had to do to it, and so I wasn't a big fan. I mean, it was a cool car for what it was, but I wasn't a big fan. So quite honestly, I wasn't really expecting this car to be fantastic. I mean, I wanted the C2. I've always, even when I didn't like Corvettes, I still love C2s. I just thought it was an amazing body style. I was really taken with it, and yeah, just regardless. And that's what makes it a bucket list car for me, because as far back as I can remember, I've always admired the C2s and thought someday I would have one. But like I said, I wasn't expecting a lot out of it, just based on my mom's C3. But I've got to admit, what little I've driven this car around, it rides really good. Certainly it being a 4-speed makes it a lot more fun, but the thing shifts like butter. Even with the drum brakes, it brakes really well. It handles just fine. I mean, it's not going to keep up with newer Corvettes or newer sports cars, but it handles really good. It's got plenty of power for me. I'm not, you know, I wasn't looking at this as a hot rod. I knew it was going to be a 427 big block car with 450, 500 horse or whatever. I mean, I think this thing, like I said, it's about 330 horsepower, and that's plenty in this car, really. Okay, we're going to head down kind of a bumpy road right now, and you can see what I mean about it. It just rides pretty good, actually. I mean, it's certainly still a lowered sports car. You know, what do you expect? You can't expect perfection, but a lot better than I really thought it would. I was kind of thinking I would be cramped in this car, but I'm really not. I got good leg room, plenty of distance between me and the steering wheel. One thing I do notice about getting over like in first and second, you got to be just at the right spot around neutral to find it. First time I took off in this thing, I took off in third. But let's get into it a little bit here. Still felt a little bit of a backfire right there. So may need to do a little more tweaking. I'm thinking carburetor. I'm really thinking the more I think about it. I'm really thinking that probably replacing the carburetor is a good idea. You know, the car's got plenty of temperature in it, so it shouldn't be cold. But yeah, I could feel a little bit of sputtering right around 4,000, 4,500 RPM. So that will probably be one thing to do to the car, but everything works on the car, all the light signals, gauges, which is important to me. I just really feel like I don't have to do a lot to this car. I can just drive it and enjoy it, and it's a good looking color. So back in the shop with the C2, I'm really stoked about this car. Again, it was a bucket list car for me. It's a car I've wanted for a long time. And as I said before, I've said this in a couple videos, I am going to talk about bucket list cars and the ones that I have and why they're bucket list cars and just a little bit about that. So a video will be coming on that pretty soon. But I'm really stoked. Real quick, the other car that I went and looked at, I really thought I was going to buy. I looked at a 1965 Corvette red with red interior. It was a 5-speed, had a 383 stroker in it, and he was about 10,000 more than this car. But Wade and I went to look at it, and just, there are a few little things about like the paint on the front fender and the door passenger side didn't match. We found out the hard way the gas gauge didn't work. We got stranded actually just off the highway, so that was kind of a pain. And I don't know if it was because it was a stroker motor and they like to be revved out and really utilized, but it just didn't seem to run quite right. It continued to diesel when we shut it off, and I heard some detonation when we were driving it. So maybe it just would have taken some tweaking, but I'm glad I passed on that car. I was really kind of serious about it, was seriously considering it, but Wade actually kind of talked me out of it, and then I found this car over in Benicia and ended up working out a deal, and it worked out well because right now they have 2 of my cars they're going to try to sell. Like I said before, I do need to sell at least 2 or 3 cars to kind of make up what I spent on this car, put some money back in the bank, and also make a little bit of room here in the shop. Right now I've got plenty of room, but I've got 6 cars spread out over 5 different areas, 5 different shops and everything like that. So right now I've got that happening, but once they all come back in, and we are getting to the point where I could feasibly see maybe possibly in the next 6 months having all the vehicles underneath the same roof, which would be very exciting for me. I've never had that the whole time I've had this shop, so that would be really exciting. It definitely would be a monumental video. But this is definitely going to be a keeper. I can't see getting rid of this car anytime soon. I really like it. At present, I do have my 66 Mustang up for sale. I have my 72 Buick GS 350 up for sale. I have my 72 C10 up for sale, and I am considering when I get it back even selling the 4140, even though I know I haven't had it. I haven't even done a video on it, but I'm considering that. Just depends on how it'll work out. We'll see what happens. But if all that happens, then yeah, I will probably go ahead and be in the market for a C506. And then, like I said, I'm gonna have to stop. I'm gonna have to basically slow way down and really just work on some of the projects and things like that in here. I'm getting to the point where I'm very happy with the collection. Like I said, I've got a bunch of bucket list cars, and this is definitely one of them. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you do, definitely give me a thumbs up. That would be greatly appreciated. If you're stopping it for the first time and haven't already, definitely hit that subscribe button. I, again, greatly appreciate it. P.O. Box and Instagram will be in the description below. And with that, guys, God bless, take care, have an absolutely amazing day.